2025. Good weather out there, partly sunny, 20 degrees Celsius, and looks like it's going to be a good day all around. Welcome in to another interactive session. My name is Ayokunmi. Good to have you join us as you always do. Please keep up with us on WhatsApp and on YouTube as well. On WhatsApp, you can send your messages into the number 0911 999 0981 is the WhatsApp number to leave your messages, concise messages, easy to read, and yeah, we'll just get along very easily. Also on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways you can communicate with us this morning to let us know your thoughts on the issues that we'll be discussing. A number of very important issues are on the agenda this morning, and joining me to take a look at each and every single one of them to analyze and break it all down. Chibuzor and Mr. C are with me in the studio. Chibuzor, good morning to you. Great to have you in.
It's a good morning, we hope. And the start of a good day. Um, Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Ayo. Let's make the best of our 30 minutes.
Yes, indeed. Mr. C, good morning to you.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Chibuzor. Good morning, Lagos.
Alrighty, let's begin our journey this morning. We're in the Vanguard, a not too good one here. And of course, there's a huge sense of deja vu here. But let me start this way. President Bola Tinubu has directed security agencies to immediately rescue the 25 female students abducted from Government Girls Secondary School, Maga, in the Danko Wasago area of Kebbi State. The gunmen attacked the school in the early hours of Monday, killing the vice principal, beg your pardon, Hassan Makuku, and injuring a security guard, Ali Shehu. He sustained gunshot wounds to his right hand. Confirming the incident earlier, Kebbi police spokesperson Nafiu Kotar Kushi said a manhunt was already underway for the attackers. Like I said, Kibuza, this gives a serious sense of deja vu. I mean, you think about Chibok, you think about Dapchi as well, and all this happening amidst the recent declarations by the U.S. talking about security in Nigeria and so on and so forth. And hey, it doesn't seem as if a corner is going to be turned anytime soon. Looking at what happened in Kebbi State on Monday, and it's so ironic because we talked about the kidnapping economy yesterday, about 2.23 trillion naira being paid in ransoms and so on and so forth in 1 year, and now 25 young girls have been abducted once again.
So when I started with my greetings, I had to take a pause when I said good morning because obviously this isn't a good morning for the families, the friends, the loved ones of these ladies and everybody who's impacted by this incident. But unfortunately, it's become a recurrence in our Nigeria today. I was talking to a colleague yesterday about how some years ago, not too long in my memory, long in my memory, where we had colleagues who had posted, down to places like Kano, and they would jump into their cars, drive from Lagos all the way to Kano, through the night, through the day, through the night, without fear. But the same colleague was telling me that, see, for him to drive from Lagos to Ibadan now is a challenge. That the best he tries to do these days appeal quota, even that comes with some fear. But that's the Nigeria we live in today. No matter what anybody wants to tell you, anybody who's trying to tell you, and I'm not one to demarket the country, but that's the realities that we live in. And until we accept that that's the reality that we live in, and say that, you know what, we do not want to live in that reality anymore, then we start correcting the problem. But when we start to repress the issue and try to play around with the numbers to make it look good, then we are not ready to solve the problem, because this is not PR, this is not image management. These are lives of people
Right.
and families, people displaced, people who have lost their lives. You know, this is a human problem. So what do we have today? In the early hours of Monday, around, I think around 4 a.m., gunmen broke into a school, you know, shot the vice principal, injured the security guard, and carted away 25 female students from a government girls' school in a place interestingly called MAGA. If you're American, you probably call it a different way. But why does it raise some questions for me? I know that some years ago there was supposed to be some program that was focused at improving security around schools in specific areas up north. Where has that program gone to? What's the status of that program? Because you know just like the comments made by the president's spokesman about how the federal government will leave no stone unturned, blah blah, we've heard all these things before. These are typical statements that comments that come after any of these things. So, and we've had too many of these incidents, so much so that we know exactly what's going to be said by the government. They will leave no stone unturned, or the security forces will fight out to do this, put the might of the federal government behind. I can write an entire playbook around, what speeches will come out at the end of this incident. But there are two questions for me. Can we prevent these incidents from happening? Can we bring a big enough disincentive? Because this is not an isolated incident.
Not at all.
It's not an isolated incident. I think we had an issue from Zamfara where I think about 64 people were they carted away, or they killed. We have in the last few weeks, or in the last 4 days, apparently we have had at least 145 people that have been kidnapped across Kebbi, Niger, Zamfara states in 4 days. 145 human beings, 145 citizens of this country have been kidnapped. I'm sure that there are very few countries that will have similar numbers in the world, and we don't even want to be in the same WhatsApp group as those countries. But guess what? In the same month, across the same country, if you fly across from, I think, just over an hour's flight from down to Lagos and down to the south, we are basically opening up our doors to invite people to come into the country for Dirty December, for the Christmas celebrations. While across the other side of the country, they are dealing with issues like this. We need to put an end to this one way or the other. The government needs to give citizens across board that confidence that these issues are being tackled. It's just no longer about mere rhetoric. It's not about just talking the talk. It's about looking at it systemically. How do we solve the problem? And it has to be consistent. If you are going to stop it by getting the army, the security forces to do it, then let's be consistent with that approach. We can't be taking one thing when some governors and local government chairmen are busy hobnobbing with terrorists and giving them some money so that they can buy weapons for the future day. While on the other hand, we are sending in our armed forces to go and put their lives at risk to get rid of these guys. Because there are no guarantees that the monies that we are paying for, that are being paid for these ransoms, are not being used to go and buy the same weapons for another day's ransom collection. But guess what? That's what some people have told us, that's how they want to deal with the problem. So can we measure the effectiveness of their solutions? No, I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna see any effect, their solutions being effective. So I would actually, and that's when we go back to the threats by the US president, it comes down to this: are we a serious country? Because no serious country would wait for another country to come and threaten it to solve its own internal issues. And this is not for anything for false pride, but we need to ask ourselves that question: are we really a serious country? Do we even aspire to be a serious country? So please, I'm short of words. I do wish that the families, these girls who have done no crime apart from just choosing to go to school and get themselves an education, will be reunited with their families at the quickest possible time. And we will not be looking at another 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 10-year remembrance ceremony for them.
All right, Mr. C. I mean, Chibuzor said quite a bit on this matter. These sort of stories, they just make one feel very dejected. Looking at the numbers, 145 missing in 4 days across different states in Kebbi, Niger, Zamfara, and so on and so forth. The girls in Kebbi State. We also had the incidents of the Brigadier General, who ISWAP have come out to say are responsible for taking him out of commission. I mean, we can't keep on going on like this. This is beyond the realm of ridiculous.
I said it here yesterday, right? and I'll continue to say it. Nigeria is kids run by content creators. I have no apologies. Now, let's even quickly dive back into the story. A school vice principal lost his or her life, and our thoughts go out to the family of this deceased individual. A security guard got injured. Now, I invite people to read the story. The story says a police tactical unit on the compound engaged these attackers in a gun duel. But, ladies and gentlemen, they did not succeed in killing any of the assailants. They didn't injure any of the assailants. They didn't capture any of the assailants. So I wonder what sort of gun duel that was. But beyond that, Nigerians are. This is a question to everyone. Do you feel a lot safer in 2025 than you felt in 2023? This is an honest question. Send in your comments. Like Chibuzor said, a lot of Nigerians are afraid to travel by road. Meanwhile, the alternative, which is to travel by air, is now for literally the 1%.
Yeah.
Because when you see some of the prices quoted by some of the airlines, you're wondering what's going on. Now, you have a serving one-star general who's been killed in active service, right? And this is a one-star general that's entitled to bodyguards protection. Do we revive the age-old question, should Nigerians bear arms? Because this is an uneven fight. You don't ask a man to run a 100-meter race and tie one arm or restrain one arm behind his back. Since the government has shown that it is consistently incapable of securing lives of Nigerians, make it an even fight. Let Nigerians have the right to bear arms. Then you know that when you are coming to attack me, there's a 50% probability you will lose your life. Then you will think twice about trying to attack me. You hear all the sound bites, oh, they're looking for the perpetrators, they'll be brought to book, decisive action. Like Chibuzor said, it's a playbook. Anyone, if you follow the news diligently for at least a year or two, you can write out a press statement on behalf of these comedians. Where are we going as a nation? They launched a task force for Dirty December. Look at all the bad press coming out. And this is the bad press that escaped their regulation because there are more things happening on a daily basis that don't make it to the newspapers.
These are the official numbers. 145 is official numbers. Well, official yet unofficial, but they're still the numbers we're hearing.
So what is, and everyone, and when you look at the political class, they are jostling for 27.
That seems to be the only focus at the moment.
Yeah, that's the focus. Even if the places are burning, elections will be held there as long as they can get some value out of those elections.
So everyone's just, the political class is just 2027. That's all. Governance, they're not really interested. So where do we go as a nation? The National Assembly, I don't understand those guys. I've never understood them. I still don't understand them. So the people who were elected to represent the larger population, what are they doing? What are they saying? Who are they holding to account? How many more Nigerians would needlessly have to die before these matters are taken seriously?
So it's like Mr. C said, when you have incidents like this well, crimes that appear to be more serious than we are, the representatives from the local government to the guy who's in the Senate to the guy who's in the House of Representatives, whoever is representing that area, typically go back to those neighborhoods, meet up with the electorate, try to give them some sense of care, comfort, reassure them, put pressure on the government because they know that they do not represent the government, but they are separate from the government. Here, what you see is that the representatives are busy hobnobbing with the executive, sitting there in Abuja. Very few of them actually go back to their constituents after elections or when it's not election season. They sit down cozy in Abuja in their elevated vehicles, living in elevated apartments paid for by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, while they're also claiming at the same time that they're doing us a service or a duty. You know, let's be real in this country. We are not serious.
Let me take a thought or two because this matter it's a very touchy one and a lot of reaction to it. All right, let me start with Tony Nikeja. Good morning to you, Tony. He says, Nigeria, what a now disgraced country. When greedy and incompetent men rule a country, every serious issue is turned into a joke. Which one is directing the military to rescue kidnapped victims? After many similar incidents with zero rescue, isn't that directive already a joke? You just wonder. Jerry says, "Good morning, all. These girls, I can tell you for free, they must have been profiled. Those who can recite the Quran, these heartbreaking news every day, and people are decamping to this same government that their families and friends are being killed every day. They are clapping for their principal. What's the, I guess you mean, what's the basis? They should help our ignorance now." Thank you. Thank you for your message, Jerry. Cisco Ogado says, "Good morning, Ayo, Mr. C, and Chibuzor. I asked a question yesterday, and none of you answered my question. Why did the federal government during Buhari's regime ask Nigerians to submit their ammunition? Honestly, there's a hidden agenda. So yeah, it's just deflating, really and truly. This is Moje from Apapa. Good morning to you, Moje. He says, "Where is Gumi, the terrorist sympathizer in all of these? He has to be taken in by the DSS to tell us what he knows and to help them solve the problem, because I believe he knows a lot. These kidnappings have gone on unabated for a long time and have become a big business, and yet people like Gumi want us to dialogue with them, yet he walks around free. This government and the one before it clearly has not shown enough political will to end this terrorism. APC is a curse to this nation, in my personal opinion. All they care about is 2027 elections and how to woo everyone over to their party." All right. Keep those messages coming in on WhatsApp on 0911 999 0981. All right, let's step into the punch right now and talk about this particular issue, where it says Nigerian students studying abroad under the federal government's bilateral education agreement and their parents are set to stage a protest, or were set to stage a protest yesterday over the non-payment of scholarship stipends, which they say has pushed many scholars into distress. Now, the demonstration, according to a notice issued by the Forum of BEA Scholars, would take place at the Ministry of Finance headquarters in the Central District of Abuja. Now, the parents of the affected students now, who said they could no longer bear the financial and emotional strain of supporting their stranded children abroad, confirmed that they would be part of this protest. It just seems like when it rains, it definitely pours. And this isn't something new, because I know from watching documentaries and so on, as far back as the 80s, we've had stories like this creeping up and so on and so forth.
I don't know.
Even
The question I ask myself is that if I was a parent, the question I ask myself is that if I was a parent, what would I do? If I was a parent that could afford it, I would just cut my losses, look at the program, see how much I can afford, and take care of my child, and just say, they've at least my kids are in the school abroad, and let's try and rough it so they finish. Because right now, I wouldn't hold my breath and expect this government to do anything to sort out these problems. Like the government before them, and like I has alluded to, this is an ongoing thing with the Nigerian government. Nigerian government reminds you, those guys, the guys, a lot of Nigerians, and this is they are parallel. So Nigerians should also understand where our government is. Unfortunately, at least to a large extent. I think the only thing that muddies up the example I'm going to give is the fact that we still have money to buy jets, buy cars, and spend stupid money for programs. Because how we seem to be acting is like guys that take from all this those loan apps. You lend money from a loan app, use it to settle this debt today, or you have another debt tomorrow. Just like, let me settle this one to, I'll kick that one forward to
Robbing
tomorrow.
Peter to pay Paul.
And tomorrow you take another one from another one, and because there's no credit check. So you just keep moving things forward. So that's what happens, because you see, this is not an isolated instance. The Nigerian government, in quote, is owing, they're owing students, the BEs, they were owing the footballers before their last match, they're owing doctors, they're owing. I think the question is, who are they not owing?
The political class. They don't owe.
Apart from the political class, they get their money on time, and they get their allowances and their stipends on time.
Juicy allowances.
They get, when they travel out of the country, they get their per diems and whatever, they get it on time. But every other person is just on the list. When we get to you, we get to you. So apparently, they were supposed to be giving them $500 a month At some point, I think in 2024, they decided to cut it to $220 instead of the approved 500. A lot of these guys are in places such as Hungary, Morocco, China, Russia, and Serbia. And they're claiming that obviously that they're going to struggle to afford food, accommodation, medical care, transportation. And believe you me, you don't want to be ill, and you don't have money to take care of yourself. But that's where they find themselves. So what have we done? Basically, we send them out, or we agreed to send them out to go and get a better education abroad. Which for me, even the concept of even the better education for me is a bit of a problem. If you were exchange students, right? I would understand, because it would mean that you have gotten your educational system up to par. You're just exchanging with other countries. But right now, what you are doing is, it's supposed to be getting a better education, and that also speaks to where we have left our educational system back at home. But that's another discussion for another day. So you have them in these countries far and wide, in Europe, Africa, in Eastern. In fact, when I say Europe, I mean Eastern Europe, Africa, and Asia, where they are currently stranded. They need funding. So the parents are going to go and protest tomorrow in Abuja. I wish them good luck. I do wish them good luck. I hope the police would not inform them that they are carrying out an illegal demonstration that has been organized to embarrass the government, because that seems to be the work of our security forces these days. I do wish they have their say. If they would get a listening voice and they will get a response, I am not sure. If they will get a sustained, I hope they do get some response, at least some positive response. If that response will be sustained, that's another story for another day. But whatever they can get out of this, if possible, they should hold on to it. But I think we just need to see, like I said, we're not a serious country, or I don't know if we're aspiring to be one serious, but if we're aspiring to be one, we need to actually sit down and look at all these commitments across board and decide, is it one, a burden we need to carry? Is
Right.
it a burden that we are willing to carry? And how do we prioritize such that these things are the things that we put on top of our list instead of the other things that we appear to be more interested in? At least that's when it speaks to our political class and to the rest of Nigerians who are, just hanging there for 2027. If we don't do anything more different, we'll still get the same responses. So good luck to us.
Mr. Sid, I know you have a thought also, but before you submit those thoughts, I just want to ask this question: Is there a template or playbook that those who are the helm of affairs of Nigeria have to follow? Because, like I mentioned, this particular issue is not a new thing. Since the 80s, since before I came into being, we've been having these issues, and it's the same thing for different things, power and so on and so forth. We've had successive governments over the decades. Is there a template that, oh, if you must lead Nigeria, you must follow this template? Because I don't even understand anymore.
Interesting question, Aya. So I wouldn't say there's a template, but when you have the wrong people in the corridors of power, you have the wrong people administering law and order, setting policies. These are the results you get. You can't ask a monkey or a carpenter to carry out a surgical procedure and expect to get the result you're looking for. I don't know how that works. Now, the people complaining are not ordinary students, they are scholars. Who is a scholar? A scholar is an exceptionally intelligent human being, male or female. So, this leads to another abiding question we ask here. What value do we place on education in Nigeria? Because the sums in question, when you look at the sums in question, these are sums the political class will squander on
Padiem,
misguided activities
when
that
they travel to
bring
places.
no value to the country. Case in point, pilgrimage, whether it's for the Christian adherents or the Islamic adherents. So when you are giving foreign exchange to people going on pilgrimage at subsidized rates, how does that benefit the country or the economy at large? But these are scholars. Show me a country that has developed without scholars, and I'll show you a lie. What is so? And a minister just comes in, cancels the program. Impunity. There are laid down structures. You can't just come in and cancel a program because you personally, as an individual, don't like it, or you don't like where some of the beneficiaries are from. So, really and truly, we're going to continue to experience this sort of unfortunate skits because we as a nation we're also unserious. We don't take part in the political process. You cannot remain aloof and expect wonders from your leaders. It's not going to happen. So you cannot plant cactus seeds and expect to harvest bananas and apples. It won't happen, even if you're a wizard. Let's let's do the proper things. Let's put our house in order. Now, again, who is being demarketed? It's the country by the incompetence and irresponsibility of certain public officials. Now it's all over the internet. The Nigerian scholars abroad cannot pay. Then tomorrow, when we travel and then they're disrespecting our passport, we act surprised, we act shocked. And then we say we're a sovereign nation. Sovereign in what sense?
Well, so you mentioned that you can't plant cactus seeds and expect to harvest bananas, even if you're a wizard. But if you've lived in Nigeria long enough, you've seen all sorts of levels of wizardry. To be honest, let me take a few messages before. There's a story here that I want us to just quickly talk about. It has to do with large sums of money, and let me just take this here. Tayo Naja says, I remember the Chibok incident. This incident in Kebbi is another one, and I imagine ISWAP countering Nigerian army with facts over their denials. What an embarrassment! What an embarrassment! I don't think we're solving the insecurity issue anytime soon if we continue like this. Federal government being best in owing and borrowing with nothing to show for it, like education. If certain activists is coming, if a certain activist is coming, then it's tear gas for the protesters. It's interesting that you said I talk about borrowing, Tayo, because what I wanted to talk about very quickly has to do with borrowing. And it's in the stories in the Punch, and the federal government has spent about $2.93 billion servicing Eurobond debt across 8 quarters under President Bola Tinubu, according to an analysis of external debt service records published by the Debt Management Office. Now, the data covering Q3 of 2023 to the second quarter of 2025 show that Eurobond obligations alone accounted for 31.5% of Nigeria's total external debt service of $9.32 billion over the 2 years. Because of time, I wanted to do this very, very quickly. Mr. C, please just jump into this one.
So, very quickly, this is another example of how shocking, unfortunate administration leads us here. Now, I'm going to quote a part of the story. More striking is the structure of the payments. Interest charges consumed 2.43 billion out of the 2.93 billion spent on Eurobonds, meaning that 83% of all Eurobond servicing in the period went to interest rather than principal. So, two things, right? This unrestrained, unbridled borrowing spree that we seem to be on, when is it going to end? Now, almost $3 billion have been spent on servicing these bonds, and from what I just read, a good portion went to interest. So, meaning the principal is still untouched. Now, question number one: the loan itself or the loans aggregated, what were they used for? How come we're not feeling the effect? Of course, the economists will come out, will spin all sorts of wonderful figures, tell us, oh, that the macro numbers suggest that we've turned the corner. But really and truly, for this level of borrowing, where's the development? Again, I ask this question: is Nigeria better off as a country in 2025 than it was in 2023? So we borrow, 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 borrow. Meanwhile, we owe, and yet we're earning money. So the money you're earning, we're not seeing what is being done with it. Money being borrowed, we're struggling to see what's going on. We'll be pointed in the direction of an uncompleted project that was commissioned. So really and truly, where are all these sums going to? And when is it going to end? Because if you're not touching the principal, when do you want to touch the principal? From what revenue source? And then come January, you now want to start a new tax regime that will further put more pressure on the average Nigerian. These things have to make sense. Because, final note to the administration, dead people don't pay taxes. It's the living that pay taxes. So we first have to be alive and surviving before we can pay the taxes.
All right, let me run through the messages. I want to try to get through all of them, even if I need to take a bit of extra time to do so. This is Ajayi Olunilua in Magodo Jerry Sherry. He says, "Good morning, Ayo, Mr. C, and Chibuzor. Good morning to you, sir. This latest attack and abduction of 25 schoolgirls in Kebbi State, the killing of their vice principal, and also the brutal killing of the brigade commander in Borno State by ISWAP is alarming and another proof of government's inability to end the reign of these terrorists. I wonder what will be going on in the minds of both the Nigerian and American presidents at this time. May God help us." Yes, indeed. Tony from Isola says, "Good morning. Thanks, Mr. C, for this quotable quote. Nigeria is a state run by content creators. Not the very good kind, if I may add." This is from Chidozie, who says, "The realities of an average Nigerian is different from the realities of a Nigerian politician, of Nigerian politicians. The citizens use the road while the politicians fly, and if they must drive, it's with security convoys. Until these two realities meet, nothing will be done about security. Those students stranded abroad should come back and continue their education in LASU, Uniben, Unilag, and Co. You see, they're spoiled for choice. In other words, patronize the Nigerian products and grow the Naira." I know you're being very tongue-in-cheek there, Chidozie. Fabian Inekwe says, "Good morning, sirs. Like I said previously, the government is interested in distracting the nation until the next election comes. A government that makes Dirty December a greater priority than protecting the lives of its citizens. There are so many unkept agreements in the health sector, educational sector, sports, and so on, yet continue frivolous spending. They don't care about us, and it's high time that we as a people decide if these are who we want to continue to rule over us when the next election comes." Benito in Lagos, morning to you. Nigeria is like the Super Eagles after missing out on qualification for the World Cup in a group with Lesotho, Rwanda, and co. And had a second chance to redeem itself, blew it. While the coach and handler are shooting video plays in a football match. I'm not sure what you mean. That exactly is Nigeria. Content creators. Gilbert Musa in Festac says, like Mr. Chibuzor said, the recent kidnap of girls from the Northwest yesterday is not an isolated case. The big question is, what lesson did we learn from the Chibok girls kidnap in April of 2014? As Mr. C rightly said, Nigeria is not a serious country. This is from Lekon in Lagos. He says, "Congratulations, 25 students abducted by repentant bandits and Boko Haram." Do we know it's Boko Haram? That the president said they have repeated and that they have repented and have been given billions of naira. Even the rubber stamp Senate passed the bill for repented Boko Haram and bandits too. Go and check. They are Christian children, just like the Chibok girls. Do you know that for a fact, Mr. Leko? Till now, the president is really continuing in President Buhari's legacy. You can see that Nigeria is now a gangster paradise, and so on and so forth. Lekon, please help me with your spelling so that it's easy for me to get through your messages. Thank you very much. This is Rexy. This is Rexy in Surulere, who says, "I live in Lagos. I feel safer now than I did in 2023. I travel by road around the southwest and feel no different. I'm presently preparing to host guests for Dirty December in some property I manage." Okay. The level of insecurity in parts of the country is nothing any government can prevent. If your guest in the studio decides to slap Iron now, he will slap him first before we start talking about what the radio management will do about that. Security starts and ends with the people. Just this weekend, we saw videos of these same bandits and terrorists shooting through the streets of Kankia in Katsina to attend a peace deal. For as long as the people do deals and idolize these bandits, the scourge will continue. We saw the same pattern in the southeast till recently when there's a breaking of ranks with the local terrorists. Until the locals in these areas are ready to stop sustaining the insecurity by not providing logistic support and goodwill, we will have these issues. If we had these issues according to you since the 80s, then by implication, one of your analysts thinks all past and present governments we're not competent and bad leaders. There's enough blame to go around, even to the radio analysts that comment from their political biases.
Fantastic take, correctly. And I always I always like to respond to your comments, even if even though they might not be directed to me personally. But what I would say is that, see, I think we made clear comments about how there is a dissonance and a disconnect between what is happening in Lagos and what is happening in other parts of the country. And I keep on using the word the country. We are still speaking about Nigeria. We're not speaking about parts of Nigeria. When you are looking outwards, inwards into Nigeria, you look at a country. You don't look at parts of it. Now, even in saying we're celebrating Dirty December, you're hosting people. What is, you see, when we live in bubbles in this country, I can stay easily in between Lekki and Ikoyi, and I move around till late hours of the morning because I know for a certain that there's more police presence within this area at even the oddest times. Once I leave here, the only place I go through is Third Mainland. I do not go through Ikorodu Road. Why? Because I'm more likely to fall into an incident if I go through there in the middle of the night and nobody will be there to help me. That is the reality we live in. I spoke about people traveling, being afraid of traveling from Lagos to Ibadan across the road. People are afraid of being traveling from Lagos to Benin and being stuck on the road that are bad in traffic. So while we are not glorifying any government or saying, I'm not picking or choosing one government over the other, I'm saying that the Nigerian government today, and yes, I think Mr. C has also pointed that some of our people also, we as citizens also need to take our responsibility part of it. But the government's first responsibility is to provide security across the nation. So let's not do this thing where we sit down and start pointing, we are fine in Lagos because we are doing what we need to do. The guys they are not doing it. The truth is that thankfully I think I've lived all my life in Lagos that we have not had to face what those guys have had to face. You see them rejoicing and following them. You think that they're idolizing them. They're just afraid for their lives. They're not idolizing anybody. So let's not generalize from what we don't know. Let's try and understand people before we start making comments. Thank you very much.
All I'm going to say is this, and I've said this here on this program many times, and I'll continue to say it. Comprehension is a major challenge for some Nigerians. And in my opinion, no matter how long or how hard you try, you cannot make a statue comprehend anything. It's incapable of comprehending anything. So when people come here early in the morning, as early as 7:30, and as trying to spin narratives to suit their political biases, all I can tell them is too early in the morning to be unfortunate.
All right, let me sneak one more in from Stan, who says, "Not so good morning, guys. I think, in my opinion, that scholarship program needs to be scrapped. If not, needs to be scrapped. A program that had never yielded any results even before I was born. A program that most of the beneficiaries are friends and loved ones of the politicians or politically connected. A program that is an indirect Japa means for most of the beneficiaries. Please show me one person that had ever returned to the country after going out on such a scholarship." All right, thank you for the messages. We need to wrap it up. We've gone way over time, but hey, today was a very different feel. We just had to do this. Thank you all so much for the messages and the interactions. We can only hope that things will change for the better in Nigeria, really and truly. Thank you to you, Mr. C and Chibuzor. Even though the stories were not the most cheerful, we had to get through them anyways, Chibuzor.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you very much, Mr. C. Thank you very much, Lagos, for having me. Let's try and make a change in one part of our life. Let's try and make a change. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you, Ayos. Thank you, Chibuzor. Our thoughts go out to the families and loved ones of the 25 kidnapped schoolgirls, and we sincerely hope they're reunited with their families as soon as possible. And then to the government, for the love of everything good under the sun. This is day 18 of the strike called by the National Association of Resident Doctors. How did we get here? This is day 18. Please, can we fix this as quickly as possible? And to the listeners, let's go out, let's do what we have to do, and let's make time count.
Let's make time count and let's make the best of each and every single day. My name is Ayokunmi, and thank you for being a part of the show this morning. And keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast 8:15. It's all about what goes on in the world of entertainment, something on a cherrier note in the grapevine. Stay with us.
Love music, love
I will.
life, smooth.